Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I have to say, Alicia, in the annals of people who are not normal, you're maybe the not normalist one of many. Man, let me say something about Alicia just to catch everyone up. Alicia was an international model back in the day. Fashion
Yes.
model. Yes.
Yes.
You can't see her legs, but in the old days, they used to insure, who was it, Betty Grable's legs, I think, for $1 million. It was a famous publicity stunt.
And Tyra Banks, I think.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
if you could see her legs, they're worth at least $1 million each. So she was a model, but that's a long time ago. I mean, you've done a lot of modeling, but you've done so much else. You became a natural sort of jump that so many models do. They become, business leadership trainers.
Mhm.
Because that happens
So easily.
so easily. And then, of course, you're the founder of Bestseller in a Weekend. If anyone's interested in writing a book, she will get a book out of you in a weekend. And I did your program, God, years ago, 2011, and it works. So that's fun. And you're here, besides just because you're a badass and you're fun, and you're not normal, is you just came out with a really great book. And it's called I Get To. There
Yes.
it is. She's holding it up for those of you watching on video. And I have to admit, and I didn't tell you this, Alyssa, when I saw it, I'm like, damn it, I should have written that book. I love it. I love the subject. I love the writing is great, by the way. But the idea is like such a big part of my life. And it's about reframing, man.
Yes.
So tell everyone, first of all, hi.
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here.
That was like my biggest...
and hi, Adam.
Oh, hey, hi, Lisa. Yeah, hi. We're all friends. We've known each other many, many years. We've worked together. We found work for each other. We had, I guess I would call it an enhanced mastermind in the redwood forests of Northern California.
That sounds politically correct to me, so that's
Yes,
good.
we were part of a business mastermind that turned into, let's say, neurologically enhanced experience. And it was...
You have that effect on women.
No,
You have that effect on women.
neurologically enhancing. Well, not like Bill Cosby, but I don't know if that's really enhancing. But yeah, but let's say I have such great visuals of that weekend and all of us in the forest and the light kind of streaming through, and we're business masterminding and everyone's high as fuck, and it was awesome. So you got a great new book out, and you're kind of doing a book tour, like very 1950s, like you're actually going to what remaining bookstores. What's going on? Like, what's that like?
Oh, but it's so much fun because really that's the only thing that bookstores can offer nowadays is experiences, is community.
Coffee.
Because Amazon, at the end of the day, really has all the book sales. But the bookstore is like a community. It's a center of a community. So it's a lot of fun. And so you can listen to great speakers at bookstores. So yes,
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing. And also not even bookstores. I'm going to be in San Francisco, and I'm going to be speaking at a West Coast leather.
Now, when in California we say leather, that could mean at a schmata company, or it could mean a BDSM group.
Oh, it's at Leather Jackets.
Okay, just want to be clear. It could mean anything. So that's cool that she's speaking at the last 7 bookstores that exist. I actually wandered the other day here in LA into the Amazon bookstore.
Oh, really? Where is that? I didn't even know there was one here.
It was so spooky.
Was
it was in Century City.
Okay.
It's in Century City. I go to Italy all the time. And I saw it, and I had this like frisson. I had this like my body kind of retracted, because I'm a bookstore maniac. I mean, I've lived in bookstores all around the world. I love used books and all, in England and all that kind of thing. And it just felt like the Borg. It felt, I love Jeff Bezos. Congratulations. He's fucking genius. He's done an amazing thing. I get my food delivered to my house so I don't have to go shopping anymore. I love him for that. But like, it was, what was it? It's like, it's
sterile. Was it sterile?
It was actually sterile.
Mm-hmm.
But it was spooky because it felt like it was, how, I lived in Jerusalem, like churches are built on top of pagan temples that they wiped out the people, and then mosques are built on top of churches where they wiped out the local Christians. So like the what do you call it? The Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem is built on a church, on a temple. You kill everyone, then you put your thing there. That's what the Amazon bookstore is.
Oh my goodness. That was a good visual.
Yeah, they've slaughtered the locals, and now they're putting up
They paved the way, and now they're going to put bookstores back.
But the great thing was actually amazing, like how many of our friends are on the front table. It was like, oh, wow, there's Tim, there's Jen, and all people I know. And it's kind of wild and weird. But you know, we're in a great community of people who are thinking and making a difference. And your book, we haven't even talked about your book yet. So it's called I Get To. And why don't you tell people?
Yeah, well, I'll read the subtitle. So it's I Get To. How using the right words can radically transform your life, relationships, and business.
Yeah.
So it's all about words. It's all about words. There's communication scripts in here. Actually, I have 40. And I know we're going to be jumping into it, but it's the words you use in life create your life, create your reality. Language is life. Language is life. So that's what it's about. So, and I really, the reason I wrote this book is there's a lot of reasons. And one of the reasons I wrote it so quickly is because I was compelled someone wrote a comment on my LinkedIn. I put a video up. I can share that story, but it
do.
Imploded my heart. Yeah. So
also, guys, everyone, this is how business happens.
Absolutely. So
I'm sorry. I'll do it once more. No, because I just discovered who Aquafina is.
Aquafina.
She's like
water,
this,
right?
Superstar. Yeah, Aquafina is a water made by, I think, Coke. But she's a superstar actress. She's in Ocean's 8, and her whole career was built because she did a music video called My Vag, and it's all built on that. She put up one video, and now she has a whole super career. So you put up this video on LinkedIn, and what happened?
I put a video of LinkedIn. I was interviewing one of my mentors who's a transformational leader, and we were talking about the concept of I get to versus I have to. So I get to coming from a place of excitement, creating what you want, versus I have to being entrenched with dread. And he was talking about it. I was talking about it. And then a woman left a comment within a few minutes and said that her story of finding the get to, that's how she termed it, finding the get to, was when she was burying her daughter.
Oh, fuck.
Ooh. And her daughter had leukemia. I mean, I could read it, right out of the book.
That sounds amazing, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much for the clip talking about I get to versus I have to. She said, I founded the nonprofit We Get To after our daughter passed from leukemia, and we experienced the power of turning our have tos into get tos. Her most incredible example being, I get to have chemo. Realizing not everyone has a diagnosis, hope for a cure, or means for medical care. And then she said my life-changing get to came completely altering the course of my life. When we were about to gather with family and friends at her grave, I prayed for the get to.
Wow.
As I heard repeating in my thoughts, I have to bury my daughter. I have to bury my daughter. Please help me find the get to. And she said, immediately I was given the thought, only one woman in the world got to be Joanne's mom. Mm-hmm. She's the only one who gets to release her back into heaven's loving care. Gratitude completely dissolved the sorrow.
Yeah.
And then she goes on to say, perspective pivots are possible anytime by anyone.
I like that, perspective pivots.
Yes. And so because I was vacillating with book topics probably for the last 3 or 4 years with several book proposals written. And when I saw that, I was thinking about this book already. I was compelled to write it. So I did it during my bestseller on a weekend. I actually, when everyone else was reading, I went into the back and did my book. So I had my 100-page draft book. And then another 10 days, I powered through.
Amazing.
And so 15 days. It took me 15 days to write 217. And I wrote it on my own, and which feels really good because it's such a process. I mean, I know you're a writer.
Yeah.
And I just enjoyed the process so much that I want to write another book. And I'm so proud of this. I really am.
That's beautiful. Well, first of all, congratulations if I haven't said it yet. It's a beautifully written book, by the way.
Thank you.
It's funny. I'm reading Neil Simon's autobiography called Rewrites, the great playwright, and he just talks about, I literally use I get to sit and just create my own world for 5 to 7 hours a day. And for me, this is heaven. I'm totally with him on that, by the way.
Me too. What a gift.
And it's funny. And the reason I went, man, I should have written this book, because that's a reframe I use all the time. I mean, I haven't had as heavy an experience as the woman who lost her daughter, but I'll do geez, I have to get on this conference call and teach, I have a weekly thing that I teach. Oh wait, I get to do that because, it pays for my house, and it's it's a wake up call. So that's one of my favorite reframes. And, the normal way of being this is F normal. The normal way of being, especially today, is that people are so sloppy with their language, and I think in the beginning of your book, you have a quote, I think it's from Jay-Z, that words speak reality into, what is it? Words.
I'll read it really quickly. It's, where can I find it?
You can speak reality.
The danger is that it's just talk. Then again, the danger is that it's not. I believe you speak things into existence.
You speak things into existence. How you use language. In the beginning was the word, I believe. Somebody once said that.
I think abracadabra means what you say, you create.
Aval kadavar. That's right. I know that. That's right. And so it's true. And it's, it's funny. I was just quoting Aristotle, because I do that earlier today. He said, you are what you repeatedly do. And the ancient wisdom, I mean, it's true neurobiologically, neuroplasticity is you are what you repeatedly do, right? If you do something over and over, if you have a belief over and over, your brain will shift. So he was right. And
muscle memory, it's brain memory.
They knew
language
memory. They knew it. And they know that you speak, in the beginning was the word, and, the word became flesh, right? So the word becomes real. The word becomes, and how you speak the world, how people speak their world normally is totally unconscious. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you here. Also, I just miss you, So let's talk about some of the ways that your book helps people sort of reframe the normal way of thinking, and I love I have to and to get to. What's the one that means the most to you personally? You have about, let me see, how many? 40 of them, 40 reframes. What's the one that means the most to you personally?
Ooh, oh my goodness. Oh, well, first of all, I love that one. I would say I'm committed to versus I'm trying.
Yes. I love that one.
Trying, when you say trying, it's failing with honor. When someone says it, I'm trying, I'll try to be there on time,
right?
Or I'll try to do this. It's you're basically setting it up that you're not attached, or the thing you say afterwards, you're not committed to.
Right. It's excuse making with a time clock on it. It's I'm making an excuse for myself into the future, not just now, right? And everyone, of course, in our world of entrepreneurship, quotes Yoda on this one.
Oh, yes. And it lets you off the hook. So that means it's you're not committed. So I'm committed to, and I actually came up with one. So I would say that's a good one. I love a lot of these. One of my favorites is yes, if, not no, because.
Let's talk about those.
Okay. So Walt Disney never liked being told no.
Right. And
if you think about it, I mean, it's actually, everyone's say no more, so you can focus on what you say yes to. Okay,
right.
Fair enough.
Right.
But, I say because saying yes if, really, you come from a place of
nice
creativity, innovation. Because if you think about it, if you and I go back and forth, so for example, Adam, can I come to your house?
No.
And let's see.
Why would I say no? Go ahead. Can I come to your house?
Can I come to your house? Can I
at 7 in the morning?
Can I come to my house and build a little, cottage in the back and live there?
Well, yes, if you pay,
There we go.
Right.
It's really interesting because when you come from yes, if, and what you did was you just paddled it back into my court. And so, so yes, if you pay, and so if you gave me amount $10,000 a month or what have you, and what it does is it's a negotiation tactic. It's also a create whatever you want and collaborate with someone else tactic.
Collaboration, right? Absolutely.
Because I've been asked, one of the things I've been asked is bring your workshop. Can you bring your workshop to Australia? And I said to the person, yes, if you fill the room and find a venue. I mean, that's a win-win situation. And I put it back over to her, and then it's her choice to say yes, if, or no, because. And if we go back, yes, 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 yes. I mean, how many things can we create in this world in a collaborative way?
That's great. It's great. You got me really thinking. This is great for relationships, folks. I mean, because my girlfriend is super creative and I'm super creative and we work at home. Sometimes we work together and she'll say, oh, can you come look at this thing I'm working on? And my initial answer is always no. Internally I guard my time so dearly during the day. And I've sort of got a whole system. And, but I hate saying no to her, right? Because it's always something amazing and obviously means something to her. So my internal is no. So I'm going to start doing that. Yes, if. And there's so many ifs. You could like back massage, front massage.
There's so many yes ifs. It's actually quite unlimited, the amount of yes ifs. Like, for example, like someone invited me to go to Dubai. So I'm thinking, because the no comes from a limited belief. A limiting belief. So like, oh, I can't afford it, or oh my goodness, I won't be able to fill the room, and who's going to watch my daughter? Like all these like no's come up in our minds.
Yep.
And we get to come from a place of like, yes, if you pay for first class round trip tickets and 5-star hotels and
back massage
for my daughter, whatever, you can
back massage, front massage.
Front massage.
Don't forget those.
Wow, like I'm super excited.
It's great.
So, and it's really challenging to say yes all the time. So it really opens it up to like, how creative and innovative can I be in my languaging and in my creative realm? It's great.
I was actually joking about the front. I wasn't really joking about the front massage, but
okay.
The answer is yes. If we can keep it to 3 minutes, I can do this. Like if I can keep it to 5 minutes, happy to. And then time it out. Not that I've worn a watch for 20 years, but where's my phone? If we can keep it to. So that's great. I think that's really useful for.
I would encourage you to be more playful with your partner, your girlfriend, because when you say keep it to 3 or 5 minutes, you're becoming in a transactional.
Oh, good. Okay.
And so in an intimate relationship, do you want to be transactional? I say keep it playful. Yes, if you give me a back massage. Yes, if you give me a front massage or whatever you want to do. So play with it. And I would be, because the thing is, it was so funny because I interviewed Victor Chang for this book and we were talking about career stuff and feedback in career. And he was talking about if you're giving feedback in a corporate setting, it's going to be different than giving feedback in your intimate relationship.
Hopefully.
If you say, oh, you didn't meet, like in a corporate, hopefully in a corporate feedback, you didn't meet the standard of operation.
That's what I say after
standards
sex.
We put.
I say that after sex. Hey,
you didn't meet the standard of operation.
Honey, I have a memo. Yeah. But right, different languaging. Sorry.
Different languaging based on the context.
Absolutely. And the thing about reframing is that it really does, it creates the environment in which you see possibility and don't see possibility. Mm-hmm. So one of the reframes I love teaching is anytime you use the word belief, replace it with working hypothesis. So then you don't get so fucking attached to your beliefs.
That's a good one.
Feel free to put it in volume 2.
I think because I have a section in the back where people can send in their
that's great
frames. Yes.
Yeah, it's great because Louis C.K., may he rest in peace temporarily and come back to us soon. He has this great piece about I have these beliefs. They're mine. They're my beliefs. They're mine. I don't act on them, but they're my little believies. And I love to hold them and show people my believies, so people are so attached to their beliefs. So I try to loosen them up from beliefs. You're trying to loosen up. One of the things I love about your book is that, you try to loosen up people from not standing up for themselves, like changing your language. If you're normally, and a lot of men and women, and there's, great books, No More Mr. Nice Guy, Ending the Nice Girl Syndrome. People don't stand up for themselves. And by making these shifts in language, you can actually shift your whole life by making your life a priority.
Absolutely. I firmly believe, and I do mention the Me Too movement a few times in the book, the hashtag Me Too movement is powerful. I think what's also powerful is addressing things in the moment. So addressing whatever happens to you. If you're sexually harassed, addressing it in the moment. Because one thing that's really, I really believe in taking a stand for yourself and other people at the same time. So coming from a we. And one of the concepts in the book is there's a line, and to be clear, you just crossed it. So for example, if you are in a situation where it's uncomfortable, or someone says something to you around the water cooler or what have you, anywhere, and you can, in the moment, say there's a line and to be clear, you just crossed it, and invite them by saying, my request is you offer an apology. And so what's happening is you are giving them an opportunity to rectify and course correct right in the moment. When we wait
10 years,
months, 10 years, 20 years later, they didn't have the opportunity to course correct. So if you think about it, they can go on and do it to other people. So what would it look like if you stand in your power in that moment and support them in that moment? So not coming from a me against you situation, but coming from a we situation. Like, what can we do together to rectify, to fix this, to create a solution? And really important, even I mentioned another of the reframes, which is super powerful, is I
call you forth, not out.
Yes, I call you forth, not out. And I love that. So the calling out of people, when you call someone out, you can embarrass them. It becomes this divisive, argumentative, it can create conflict. When you call them forth, it's how can we come from we to how can I support you, and we come from a we place. Another one is, what can we do to, because when we do, we will.
I like that.
So what can we do to bridge the pay gap between men and women in our organization? Because when we do, we'll get great PR, we'll attract the best talent, and we'll make a great company culture. So it's not like I'm a victim and you are victimizing me. It's like, how can we come from this together collaborative front? And
you're leading them toward the solution that you know is possible. The more beautiful solution you know is possible.
Absolutely. And it comes from an abundant solution, a solution of possibility, versus like, oh, we as women at the company aren't making as much as men, being victimized by it, not voicing. And this is a very powerful conversation with HR, because what you're doing to HR is saying, when we do this together, these are going to be the benefits, and it's going to benefit not only us as women in the company, but also you as a corporation. We're going to get great PR. We're going to get a great company culture.
Of course.
It's awesome.
And you get a better world. I want to go back actually, because this was really, I think of all of them, maybe my favorite, especially given the Me Too discussion. I run a forum online for men to talk about called hashtag Men Meet Me Too. And it's like, let's meet this moment. This is an important moment in history. Like, it could be a tectonic shift if handled correctly. In the way, and I always say, very much like 1964 was for, African-American rights. It's like a wake-up call, and of course now that's all handled, as I said, but anyway, it was a wake-up call that something's off. And I think Me Too there's something off. And there's so much calling out, right? There's a lot of repressed anger. There's a lot of repressed justified anger, fury. I mean, why wouldn't there be? And so now we have this culture of calling people out.
Yes.
And I read your chapter on I call you forth, not out. I'm like, wow. I'm like, this is so deep. You take someone like Al Franken, right? the guy was a comedian. Like, if you've ever been around the world of comedians, I know you have, around entertainment, people fuck around. They do all kinds of things. It's fine. This is what people do. It's part of the culture.
Yes.
It doesn't mean it's right. You don't grab people. You do funny pictures when people are sleeping. I know you shouldn't do that, especially if you're in the Senate. But he's the kind of guy who, if he was called forth, he would have been like, you know what? It was a stupid thing. I really regret it. I honestly would never do that again. Everybody knows how much I stand for women's rights. Thank you for calling me forth. Here's how I'm going to step forth. I'm going to make a pledge, to do such and
what you can count on me moving forward, which is what you can count on me moving forward. Because what's happening is there's a call out culture now, and men are falling left and right. And what would happen if we were courageous in the moment to call them forth right now? Now, I know this is a lot we're unpacking, and there's a lot of context.
Sorry.
And so when we see it, because what's going to happen is people are being called out left and right and being fired, and then they're no longer, like the one I saw the other day, and I was at the gym, I wasn't listening, but Tom Brokaw.
Yeah, right. How many years has it been?
And I don't even know how many years. How many years was it?
A lot.
Okay, so this man is a hero to me, with all of the work that he does in terms of World War II and Greatest Nation and all that. And so we all have something in our past, women included. We all have something. And so for me, it's important to come from a neutral point of view with this conversation. So not a woman against men, me against them, us against them type of situation or conversation. It's about how can we be really neutral, because someone like Tom Brokaw, who has done so much good. I mean, Martin Luther King cheated on his wife.
John F. Kennedy cheated on his wife. Jesus. No, I don't know about Jesus.
Yeah. So we're going to knock out everything that Martin Luther King and focus on, when you're walking on a beach and you see a little black speck of sand,
right?
You're on an entire beach, and all you do is focus on that little piece of a black piece of sand.
Right.
Now, in terms of Bill Cosby, obviously, again,
that's a problem. Yeah.
There's major, but what would have happened at the moment if someone spoke up and corrected it right then and there? And again, we're unpacking a lot. There's a lot of nuance, and so, but I think this is something that gets to get addressed.
Notice everybody, she went from but to and, which is an old improv trick, which is another great reframe.
Yes, and.
But is, yes, and instead of but. Here's an idea for you. You just gave it to me. Hang on. I'm looking at my bookshelf. I'm looking for a book. Just reorganize them. Can't find a thing. But there is a book, I promise you. And it's called Wired for Love. I don't know if you know it.
I've never read that book.
Wired for Love is on the neuropsychology of relationships. I can't find it. Dr. Stan Tatkin. And the reason I bring it up is because here's a cool idea maybe for you. He talks about the neurobiology of attachment and how when you're in relationship, if you do certain behaviors, he's a psychologist, if you do certain behaviors, you can literally rewire each other's brains away from the reactive, angry, self-defensive bullshit that you bring from childhood or from your past relationships. But you have to do these things. And one of the primary things he says is you've got to respond in the moment. And you're such an advocate for speaking in the moment, because that can create real change. He says if there's an issue, solve it in the moment.
Solve it in the moment, not 20 years later. One of my girlfriends, we were having this conversation, and I was asking her about her graduate school, and I was interested in it, and I was like, oh, I'm thinking about taking extension, whatever. And she goes, Alicia, you've never been supportive of me, and I was like, whoa, wow. And she's like, you never all, and I said to her, this is new information to me, right. And I said, what? Can you give me a time? And she goes, just in the past. And I said, please, can you support me in that moment when I make a misstep?
Nice.
And I said, because if I did it 15, because we've had a 20 plus year relationship, I did it 15 years ago, that means I didn't have the information at that point to course correct, to make different decisions, to respond. And so that's courageous. That's intimacy, is calling someone forth in the moment. And fourth. And this is not happening now. We're doing stuff from 20 years ago. And it's a, like, I don't know. It's something that I'm really grappling with, I would say, as I'm talking about it right now, because what was coming up in that moment, it's like, it's a problem. And it's something that gets to be done as well. If you look in my past, just if I looked in your past, Adam, and
don't.
And if we looked in anyone's past, there has been an indiscretion.
Yeah.
And you can find it on anyone. So, I mean, who's going to, the thing about leadership is course correcting, being vulnerable, transparent. Everyone gets to be transparent now. I wrote an article about
everyone
Uber.
Gets to be transparent.
We get to open the kimono. And
you get to lose all your privacy now. Isn't that awesome? But there is something to it. Right?
It is. I mean, in terms of relationship of what is in terms of responsibility of being a public figure. Now, obviously, you don't need to open your bedroom doors, but it's important that there is transparency. And when there's a mishap, is full ownership coming from 100% responsibility.
And I'm sure you've been watching a number of people in our community who, would be called thought leaders in some way, who are dealing with that, who have had indiscretions in their past. They either maybe forced themselves on someone a little too strongly, the ones who we're friends with, maybe once. I mean, I just found out one of our mutual friends, we can talk after, who's been undergoing this year-long I don't want to say flagellation, but self-reformation and really coming to terms with his past. And I was like, what did this guy do? Oh my God, he's like taking a whole year off. It was one small thing, and it was with a sex worker, and it was nothing violent or anything like that. And then she just later said, I felt like he compelled me, like he was, and that was it. And this is a guy who deals with sex in his business daily. Other people we know, of course, have long histories of this. And yeah, you can shift someone, especially someone who doesn't realize. Because, there's a great old saying, who was it? Women are crazy and men are idiots. And the reason why women are crazy is because men are idiots, which is a way of saying evolutionary biologically that men don't have the social signal intelligence that women have. We won't get into it now. But,
and we get to support men with that. So if we see a man or anyone in a place of needing support, and that's one of the reframes in the book is, how can I support you? And so when you see someone in fight or flight, when you see someone struggling, is coming from a place of asking how I can support you, and also requesting support when you need support, is becoming vulnerable.
Let's do this together.
Yeah. Let's do this together, because what's happening now is a lot of us against them.
Totally. And honestly, you could shift the whole Me Too movement. I mean, not the whole one, but you could have a really big impact with this book, because I'm a huge supporter of Me Too. I think it's essential. I think this is a huge wake up call. And it's about calling out, not calling forth generally. I mean, there's plenty of women, I'm sure, doing a great job in calling forth people. But when you say calling forth, it's like, let's call forth, literally forth into the future. Let's create a better future. Because isn't that what everyone wants? Isn't that the goal here? And not just like, retribution, which, again, I understand the impulse to want to get retribution, right? I'm sure a lot of women, and some men, by the way, also, who have been abused by men, some, I guess, by women. Every time I mention this, I get people writing me, oh, what about the men? What about the men who are abused by women? I'm like, yeah, I know. That's true. And let's also talk about this first, because this is what we're talking about. Then we can also talk about men who are abused. So every time I do this, somebody goes crazy on me online. Now I forgot what I was saying. Yes, calling people forth. Calling
people forth, absolutely.
Future.
And when you're triggered, like you were saying, people call you forth or write letters, or these are very heated issues, and people are blowing up Facebook, etc. It's I like coming from a place, I believe that we can come from a place of win-win. And so how can we win? So if something, and that's another concept of the book, is, did it happen to you or did it happen for you? Now, I know Tony Robbins said, I don't remember who I heard it from, but I know that Tony Robbins says it, and it's popular in transformational leadership. And it's like, how did this particular situation be a for me versus it happened to me? And so what I like to come from is, again, responsibility. So not only are we responsible for our lives, but responsible how we interpret, and we're responsible for our response.
Absolutely. That's why it's called responsible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in, you know, for me, I've never been sexually harassed.
You've never been you were a model and you were never sexually harassed?
I was never sexually harassed. The only close thing I got to something, and I talk about it in my book, is when I was in Fiji and I was backpacking around the world, and I was in Fiji. I took a taxi, wanting him to take me to a youth hostel or whatever, and he drove off into the sugar fields.
Yeah.
And I, as he was driving off into the sugar
wrong girl.
I just looked at him. I just kind of my head, I think it even bounced like that. I just looked at him and I said, I go, I know what you're thinking. Actually, I have the script in here. I know what you're thinking and it's wrong and you're not going to do it.
Nice.
That's what I said.
These are total Jedi trick. These are not the joys you are searching for. And he's like, yes, this is wrong.
Yeah, I didn't, you know, it's so weird because I took that out of the archives of my mind, because when I was an intern at UCLA, I worked at HBO Pictures. I worked for this badass woman, super powerful woman. And she told me about a story. She was in her kitchen. Someone broke into her house. She's like cutting at the cutting board and she turns around. There's a man standing there.
Yep.
And she said, I know what you're thinking.
Wow.
And it's wrong and you're not going to do it. And he walked out. And so that's the thing. You never know when it's going to create impact. So I'm an intern at HBO. I hear this 3 or 4 years later. I say the same thing to this guy who was like, I have some beer in the back. And I said that to him and he drove me back. I mean, thank goodness. And I spoke in the moment, and I mean, you never know. You never know.
You know, it's really amazing. It's such a powerful thing to say. There's no threat. You're just getting it's the ultimate marketing, really. I mean, you're like getting inside his mind. And those of us who are involved in entrepreneurship and marketing, you know, you get inside your customer's mind and you figure out what they want, and then you lead them toward the solution you want, right? It's basically what marketing is. And you totally Jedi mind tricked him. You got into his mind. You touched something that was real in him, that he knew somewhere in his soul that what he was doing was wrong. And there was no violence, no confrontation. You just tapped into that. It also shows how incredibly fucking suggestible people are. I mean, isn't that wild? You have to imagine, how old was the guy?
Had to be in his late 30s, early 40s.
Okay, so probably full testosterone, you know, he's like, you know, he's probably in some kind of inner crazed state. I've got this beautiful girl in my truck, a car, my taxi, I'm going to do this thing. And then you just say one thing and it's like switched off. People are so suggestible, which is why, by the way, speech is so important. Buy her book.
Because people want to know what to do. Yeah. And you know, even in the marketing world, call to actions, people want to specifically know what's the next step. And if there's no, and so for me, he was saying, how far can I go? Perhaps he told me as he pulled over, he goes, I have some beer in the back. And he was pulling it out. And that's all I said. And I looked him right in the eye. And so it was like, I could have said, oh, awesome. You got some beer. Let's do this.
Let's party.
Or
taxi guy.
And so since I took him, so it's like almost a redirection. We talked about that, being able to redirect language. And I talk about the water cooler language. If water cooler language gets testy, or there's a conflict in terms of like after a presidential election or what have you, and it's going in a different direction, it's like, how can you shift the conversation? How can you harness this energy happening and redirect it? So, and I have an example of it in the book, is redirect that energy into something positive, into something that's forward moving versus the runaround that happens, because people agree to disagree.
Yeah, it's true. No, this is a really important book. Like I said, I thought it was about, just kind of like, I thought it was self-development when I first read it. It was just like, oh, this is how you can change your mind, and it's important. It's important. The kind of thing we talked about, I have to get to, but there's really a political importance to what you're doing, especially now, for example, I don't know, after a presidential election, where no one's listening to each other. No one's calling forth. Everyone's calling out. And the thing I mentioned about Tatkin before, about like, hey, let's handle it in the moment before people get entrenched into their tribal bullshit. You're almost like taking this notion of creating a bubble of goodwill that he talks about in Wired for Love, great book, by the way, and expanding it into the social and political realm. Like you create a bubble of goodwill instead of the shit storm that we're in, where everyone just loves, like I said, a lot of the Me Too movement, absolutely well-deserved anger, but there's so many people just trolling online, just calling people out. I made a distinction the other day between how Starbucks handled the two African Americans in Philadelphia who were, kicked out of a Starbucks, who were just there for a meeting. They were just waiting for someone, and Tony Robbins. So Tony Robbins had this event. You know the story. I'm sure most people do. If they don't, a woman got up and asked about Me Too, and he just went into like, oh, it's just victimization, and people love being victimized. And he just went off on a thing because he's a great man. I mean, he made a mistake. He's so concerned about people living as victims, which is a big part of his work, that he forgets there's actually victims, right? There's actually victims, and that needs to be taken care of. You can't run past trauma. And
there's no blanket solution for everything. Everything is nuanced. So
right. So he did his organization did a really bad thing. The video of that got out, and they literally went around trying to squelch it. And the woman who brought it up, she has this wonderful name, by the way. I can't remember it, but she has this beautiful name. It's perfect. I can't remember it, but she was so dignified and so graceful in what she was saying, and her response to him was so dignified and so graceful, and obviously coming from a place of truth and heart. And then he did something. He did this exercise, and he put her fist against her fist, which was like a knuckle against his fist, and he basically pushed her across the room. He says, "See, the more you resist, the more tension is created." It's like, what the fuck is that? You're 7'10", and she's like a little woman. Anyway, the point is that his company tried to squelch it online and threaten people to take it down. And wrong approach.
Wrong approach. You invite it. You're like, bring it on. Let's talk about this. Because anytime that's the thing. When you hide things, you're creating shame.
Yep.
And so the first thing is, when you tell someone, don't tell anyone,
they're going to tell everyone.
That is a red flag for yourself. I actually said this the other day to my dad.
Yeah.
I go, don't tell my brother. And I'm like, wow, I just said that. That means there's shame intertwined into that. And then I said, actually tell him.
Nice.
If it comes up.
Nice.
And so that's because I was like, wow, so self-awareness is really important. And we live in a world now where if you try to control that, and then again you're controlling other people. You can't control the social media is uncontrollable. It's a vast wild fire, and we are social and political beings now. We all have opinions, and is the conversation you're just talking around circles, or are you moving the conversation forward into a collective solution?
It's beautiful. It's such a great and important topic. And just to finish the story though, like Starbucks, they immediately convened a whole national day of training and making sure it didn't happen. The CEO flew out and met with those two people. And I wrote a post, we were talking about trolls, and I read a post, and there's this guy who's on my case, just this little social justice warrior type. And he's like, I call you out, Adam Gilad. That's bullshit. They're still paying people too low. He started going on about and I'm like, hey, and I had enough, and I never do this online. I go, hey, superstar, before you call out Starbucks, what the fuck are you doing to improve like racial relations? Go ahead, I'm listening. I call you out, Adam Gilad, bullshit. I'm like, first of all, I'm not Starbucks, but he's got to stick up his ass about me. So people love doing this. They just love trolling because it makes them feel important. It makes them feel significant. And calling out people makes them feel significant. And by the way, separated from the person, this is an interesting thought, just striking me, it also makes you feel separated and better, right? Obviously,
Yes.
because you're taking a high moral position. But with your approach, which I just adore, you're doing the exact opposite. I'm calling you forth. Hey, we're in this together. We're human beings. We're in a world together. This is huge. I mean, that is a huge concept.
It's disarming as well, because what's happening is once you come from a place of, I call you forth, they feel it's like it's maternal, it's feminine, it's like, oh, I'm getting support from someone else. Because as soon as you're like this, I call you out.
Right. It's bullshit.
The only way to go is escalate the situation. And we talked about it because I have a concept that I got from Christine Comerford in the book, and it's called the sub-dom swap. And when you are in a situation like with my daughter, I use the example. So we're two alpha females in a house. She's individuating. She wants to, bring forth her power.
Powerful girl. Yep.
Powerful girl. And then she has me as a mom. So it's like, wow, she's handling that. And so what I find to get what I want in a particular situation, whether it's the dishes done or what have you, I say, babe, can I have your support?
I like that.
So I soften. So the ability to soften. Yeah. She goes, okay, so the sub-dom, so she realizes she's the dominant, and then I kind of subvert, if you will. And then she's like, oh, mom, yeah, I'll help you out. So but when we're both dominant, then nothing gets done. And it's what?
Nothing gets done. Absolutely true.
Nothing gets done. So it's not weakness. It's actually me being in my power in terms of this delicate dance of relationshiping. And this is not going anywhere. How can I style flex? How can I change to really get what I want in this situation, and not in a selfish way? Well, I guess getting her to do the dishes is kind of, but to create harmony in that particular situation. Same thing happens in masculine feminine relationships. Is if your partner, if your husband, whatever, is super angry about something, are you getting angry at them? Is that going to solve the situation? It's the ability to soften. And I use the example because I was, I think, have you met Dietrich, who's my partner?
Yeah, of course. Studly dude.
So, so we are traveling through Eastern Europe, and he used to be a stunt driver. So we're going 120 miles an hour around like Macedonia, like switchbacks. I'm literally panicking, like white knuckling, and then my alpha female, like I'm like this. I wanted to scream. I wanted to be like, what you're doing? What I did instead was soften. And what I said was this. I said, babe, when you drive really fast, it makes me feel unsafe. Yeah. Can you help me can you make me feel safe again?
Right.
That's what I said. So I softened, and he was like, absolutely. He was like, oh, darling, absolutely. So it was that type of dynamic. But if I went off on him, he would have driven faster. I know it.
Yeah.
And so
you did the right thing. Yeah. You called it feminine, which is taking that position of more receptive, and you have a few reframes in your book. You talk about the I invite you, which is another great one. Hey, can I invite you to something? Sure. I want to be invited. But it's like, I want to invite you to discussion about what an asshole you are. Okay. But it's like being invited to a birthday party, right? It's like, I'm being invited. But it's these little language changes that change everything. Yeah, sure. Invite me. You said a couple other things I love. You used the term, I also love reframing. I hate the word relationship because it's like ship sink, and a relationship is an evolving thing. I call it relating, and you called it relationshipping. I love that. I've never heard that. Like a relationshipping firm. Yes, we're involved in international relationshipping. Well, actually, that's probably happening from China. But yeah, so I love your use of language. It's great. It's thoughtful. By the way, great resource. I don't know if you know it. It's called The Talk to Me Like I'm Someone You Love, which is one of my favorite relationship books ever. Talk to Me Like I'm Someone You Love by psychologist Nancy Dreyfus.
Beautiful.
And she was in a session, and I think it was a wife was just launching into her husband as husbands can do. And just like they're married, and she's talking to him like he's a fucking devil. And so this psychologist just jotted these words down, talk to me like I'm someone you love, passed it to him, and he held it up in front of him, and the woman just broke into tears. Like, we're so fucking unconscious, like the Fiji taxi driver. So this is just this book is such a great call to consciousness. It's just fantastic.
What I love about that, because when you are, because sometimes it seems like people who are love and then married are the most argumentative, conflicted people. And when you are screaming and launching into someone, we're really in our tribal brain. We are in our amygdala big time, and we feel this person is is unsafe. It's like this is our arch enemy. And wow,
they can hurt us. They're the ones. I mean, the guy who lives down the street can't really hurt me. You know, like the guy in the coffee. You know, they can't really hurt me. My partner can really hurt me.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm invested in them, of course. So this book is great. Did you write it for like corporate? Did you write it for personal, or just kind of both? Or
there is stuff for personal. There's self-talk. There's affirmations, mindset, relationships, parenting, and there's a little corporate how to speak in the corporate world in terms of feedback. So it's actually cool from those three areas.
Yeah, I kind of skipped those chapters because I don't do a lot of corporate feedback sort of stuff. I don't have water coolers. I've avoided that.
But we do have social media, and our equivalent to water coolers is social media. And if we look at other internet marketers and coaches, when weird stuff, because I have seen some passive aggressive stuff on Facebook, and people call, and it's like, this person who just did this to me, and they have this type of business. It's like, of course I know who that is, but our water cooler is social media, and so I wouldn't say it's corporate per se. It's
all right. I'll read those chapters.
It's human connection. So wherever there's humans, whatever the context, these situations are going to come up.
Yeah, I mean, great. I mean, just to scroll through a couple of these, what I heard you say is, which is great, my truth in this moment is a great one. Hey, would it be of support if I need your support? I love the one, I invite you. I love these. These are really useful on social media as well. You know, what I heard you say is interesting because people will say, that's not what they said. You know, and I police my Facebook groups really strongly on how people talk to each other. You know, when people say like, you just don't get it, I'm like, no, this person has a different interpretation. Let's do it that way. Hey, that's not my interpretation. Right? Yeah. We're in this together. So look, everyone, the book is called I Get To by Alicia Dunams, fashion model turned corporate leader turned author, teaches books, bestseller in a weekend.com.
Bestsellerin-a-weekend.com.
I can personally vouch for it. I did it. You will actually walk out with a book at the end of the weekend, which may sound impossible, but she's got a system and it's really good. Go get this book. I think it's helpful internally for people, and in talking to you, really hearing like where your passion is and where it's coming from. This is an important book politically, you know, socially right now. And for the reasons we talked about, that people just are separating themselves from each other, but we're all in this together. And the language, look how quickly like little language tricks can wake people up. You know, that's fantastic.
Just even the simple one of changing I have to I get to is a game changer.
Absolutely. Beautiful. Alicia, thank you so much. Everybody go get her book. I'll see everyone soon. Bye.
Bye.